Good morning. Welcome to another session on environmental impact assessment.
So we shall continue with Unit 2 methodologies. Course outcome illustrate the methods of EAA with case studies. Learning outcome discuss the methods used in EAA. Specific outcomes explanation of the checklist method of EAA. And we have already seen in detail about scaling and weighing checklist method. And I have already discussed an example of the same. Right? We shall go to that example again. So this was the slide where we stopped in the last session, right? I have discussed in detail about how to apply a combined scaling weighing method and find out which alternative is the best alternative. And as I told in the last session, if you apply only the weighing method, you will get a particular alternative as the best one. If you apply scaling as well as weighing together, you will get some other alternative as the best alternative. So it is up to the decision maker to decide which one he wants to go for. So for preparing checklists, information expertise at different levels are required, obviously. So knowledge required for conducting the or to prepare the this type of checklist is immense, right? You need to have a lot of expertise, you need to have a lot of knowledge to prepare these type of checklists when compared to simple and descriptive checklists. While simple checklists require information of impacts on general environmental factors, scaling weighing checklists require more detailed expert knowledge. So some of the assumptions that are considered in this method is that environmental factors under considerations, right? You make assumptions about them. Why? Because we are not aware of all the environmental factors. So whatever environmental factors we know, we make assumptions about them or we consider those factors. Second, methodology followed for calculating the index, right? There are some assumptions in them, meaning we make an assumption of the number of jobs or the uh, we are not aware, we are not exactly aware of how much area is going to get affected, so we make some assumptions over there. Weightage assigned to each factor, right? Aggregation methods adopted across all factors will make weighing scaling checklist method to differ one from the other, right? So these are some areas in which we make some assumptions, right, while doing the scaling weighing checklist method. So what are the different types of scales that are being used in EA methods? There are four different types of scales. One is nominal, second one is ordinal, third one is interval, and fourth one is ratio. So the nominal scale is used for classifying the objects, So you want to classify the species or you want to classify the soil types. In that case, you use the nominal scale. Ordinal scale is for ranking, right? You want to rank the different objects, like this is minimum, that is maximum, or this is worst, between worst and best. You have some rankings between minor and major. You have some orderings or rankings. That is the ordinal scale. Interval scale. Uh, interval scale is for when you want to specify some particular range. Time from 10 to 11 a.m. Or in terms of temperature. If the temperature between uh, some x degrees to y degrees, you can say that it's a very hot climate, or it's a cold climate, something like that. You want to specify something like that, then it is an interval scale. And the fourth scale is a ratio. You want to take some ratio of some height, ratio of some weight. So these are the four different type of scales that are generally used in the scaling weighing method. Anyway, this is just an information for you about the different types of scales, right? So I'm not going in detail about each of the parameters in terms of the mathematics. It is very important to understand which scale has to be used in dealing with different types of data. So you should be aware of the type of scale that is to be adopted for the particular type of data that you are going to use. Nominal scales are used when dealing with descriptive information which is categorized while evaluative information is analyzed by ordinal, interval, or ratio scales. Right? So when you're going to use descriptive information, you use the nominal scale. Right? So let's go back and see what is the nominal scale. Nominal scale is about classification. Right? And when you want to evaluate something, then you use an ordinal scale, or use an ordinal scale is you are ranking something, or use an interval scale or ratio scales, right? And interval and ratio scales are used to aggregate information into an overall grand index. So whatever scale that is used, it should be properly defined for clarity purpose. So you may choose a particular type of scale, but you should have clarity as to why you are using that type of scale for that particular data. Advantages and disadvantages of the checklist method. So they are mainly used for summarizing information to make it accessible to experts in different fields or decision makers who have little technical knowledge. Right? It's a good way of summarizing the overall information. Why? Because you are putting in terms of checklist. It may be simple or descriptive. Right? Preliminary analysis will be available in scaling checklists. Right? So as we already discussed above or earlier, that the checklist method is not the best method, but it can help you in identifying the impacts, and also to some extent it can help you to you know mm, it can help you to decide which alternative is the best one based on scaling and weighing method. Information on ecosystem functions can be clearly understood from weighing methods. So those are some of the advantages of the checklist method. Some of the disadvantages or drawbacks of checklist method is that it is too general or incomplete, right? Because the interactions are not talked about, or to say, we are not going to make an exhaustive list when it comes to simple checklists or descriptive checklists. We are not going to make an elaborate or exhaustive list of impacts, right? They do not illustrate interactions between the effects, right? You have identified some of the impacts, but whether the impacts will be interacting with each other, whether the environmental factors are going to interact with each other, those things will not be seen in this particular method. The number of categories to be reviewed can be immense, right? Which will create confusion about significant impacts. Number of categories to be reviewed can be immense. Like you can go on making a you know n number of components in a checklist, so you will have to review all those in terms of different categories, which will be very tedious task. Involves the identification of effects which are qualitative and subjective. So you are going to identify the impacts, and you are going to make only a qualitative assessment. We are not making a quantitative assessment. How much impact is going to come, those things may not be. Magnitude of the impact may not be identified so easily in these type of checklists, which is one of the drawbacks of this method. So thus we come to the end of this session, right? The quiz questions will be posted in the forms which you can attend. Thank you.
Thus, we come to the end of this session. Thank you for your participation. Looking forward to meeting you in the next session.